All right, so if you're watching this video, you're here for one of three reasons. Okay, number one is you own a consumer private goods or CPG brand already, and you're here just to check out what I'm all about and how I might be able to help you. Number two is you're like, Nick, I know that you build physical products and create them for other people and entrepreneurs and business owners. Can I learn something about it? In which case, yes, you can in this video. And number three is you're just curious about how CPG or private label brands work and what is it like to actually manufacture my own product, design and develop my own product, as opposed to drop shipping it or sourcing it from somewhere else and selling it for a higher amount somewhere else, right? If you're one of those three people in this video, then watch this, okay? And another thing I want to make very clear is if you're somebody that invests time and energy and capital and money into everything that you do and you're serious about business, you're going to get more value out of this because there's going to be some details and information that you're going to resonate with a little bit better. Despite your industry or whatever your business experience is, you're going to get some value out of this. That's the goal of this. And to obviously nurture and provide you with some information to see if it's worth your time to get on a call with me, linked below directly in my booking calendar. Okay, I have nothing to sell you in this video, unlike a lot of other people that build landing pages around videos like this all the time. But of course, I do have stuff to sell at the end of the day. I'd much rather be a partner in your business, help you leverage physical products or scale your existing CPG brand so that we can all succeed in this year and beyond. So I want to give kind of three very basic case studies as to why CPG or consumer private goods brands are so lucrative. Why is making your own products and selling it online super lucrative? Well, take a look at Kim Kardashian, okay? With her Skims line of apparel, okay, she's got an annual gross revenue of $750 million with a profit of $190 million, which is at a profit margin of 25%. That means if she puts in $100 in this business, for every $100, she's going to make $125 back in 1 year, okay? Then let's take a look at Ben from Gymshark. Well, the thing is about Gymshark is he's making $75.5 million in British pounds in profit every year, and his annual gross revenue is reported at 176 million British pounds, which is just above 200 million USD. That's a profit margin of 43%, which means that for every $100 that he puts into this business, he's going to make $143 back inside of a single year. And then the third case study here is with George Clooney, who is a fractional partner to Casamigos Tequila. A lot of people don't know that. Casamigos Tequila was recently acquired by a company called Diageo. And Diageo recently had an annual gross revenue that they reported of 18.4 billion British pounds with a profit of 7.5 billion British pounds, which is a profit margin of 41%, riding most of their sales on Casamigos Tequila. That means for every $100 made, Clooney and the people that have fractional equity in the business take $141 back on that $100 inside of 1 year. So the profit margins are pretty dang solid, and you own the product, so it's very fulfilling. And if you take a look at a lot of other business things that people tout out there, maybe you've tried it yourself, okay? And particularly for those of you who have already started a brand, you already know this, you've already overlooked it. I'll get into the details of how you can improve things in a couple minutes here. But specifically for those who are new, I mean, and hopefully everyone gets value from this, look at the profit margins of existing alternative businesses that you could start online, okay? Drop shipping, typically when you flip other people's products, even if it's sourced internationally from vendors in China, okay, you can only command margins of about 30% after you pay the fees, processing and handling fees, shipping, fulfillment, repackaging with the co-packager, 3PL fees, all of that stuff, you're looking at 30%. Okay, Forex trading and trading the markets in general, you're lucky if you can make 10% back on your money because that assumes that you can beat the ultimately conservative and secure S&P 500 in performance. Beating the S&P 500 in performance means you're one of the top 3% of traders because the other 97%, are not profitable. So 10% profit margins, let's call it, and you got to put a lot of money in, and it's not guaranteed. Real estate, capital gains, playing the game, you're lucky if you get 12, 15%. If you've got these great internal rates of return, great IRR numbers, and great cap rates, you can command better, I guess you could call it profit margins in real estate. A lot of the income is passive once you set things up. I think real estate is great. It creates the most millionaires, but it is capped ultimately at 12% on capital gains and depreciation, assuming you're an average real estate investor, maybe with a W-2 job, whatever it is, right? Okay. Cash value life insurance. You open up a cash value life insurance account, you invest your money. After a couple years, you might get 9, 10, 11% returns on your money and beat inflation, which is great in and of itself. But that delta on inflation is only about 4 to 5%. Okay, keep that in mind. Amazon FBA, 10% profit margins. It doesn't matter what the gurus tell you. Oh, flip Clorox bleach, okay, and make millions of dollars. Off that millions of dollars, you might only make $100,000 a year on profit, that take-home profit, right? Lastly, a marketing agency. You're working really hard. You're building systems. You're not going to get results for every client. That's just how the nature of the beast goes with SMMA or marketing agency companies. You're only able to command like 30% profit margins. So why do most people not start a CPG brand or a private label brand where they're making their own products like Gymshark or Skims or Casamigos Tequila? Well, the reality is that there's 3 core reasons that I've seen. First is the lack of knowledge. You don't have the right partner. It's hard to trust anyone these days. This obviously is a very involved business. Like, how the hell am I going to make my own apparel? How the hell am I going to make my own tequila, right? Who do I trust? How do I formulate? How do I even start, right? And then once I start, how do I guarantee that I'm selling? Who do I retail with? How do I even, what is retail, right? So there's a lack of knowledge there. And I guarantee you there's no influencer or guru or furu, fake guru out there that's talking about what I'm talking about here in this video, because simply put, it's a real business. It requires real intuitive knowledge, stuff that you have to study in books and podcasts and TED Talks, not stuff that you can quickly cash cow on the internet. So it requires a lot of intensive industry experience. And there's also a lack of funding. I feel like a lot of people perceive starting a brand like Skims, for example, as I have to have $1 million to put down to make something of myself. When in reality, there's 2 things. First of all, it requires way less money than you think if you do it correctly. Way less than a lot of these programs that you guys might be advertised on online. And the second thing too is that it's hard to make money. It's not easy. So like a lot of people on the internet will tell you it's super easy to make money, follow this trend. It's not easy to make money. If it was easy to make money, capitalism wouldn't exist. There wouldn't be class structure and segregation. Poverty wouldn't be rampant. Like, it's hard to make money, and you need to hear someone tell that to you, right? And especially if you're watching this, you already have a CPG brand. You already know some of the stuff I'm about to get into. You know how hard it is. So I'm preaching to the choir, right? The third thing is fear. Okay, basically the universal thing that stops us from doing anything we want to do. If you've got unlimited money and you've got unlimited knowledge on how to start a private label brand, and perhaps you're watching this and you're doing decent with an existing private label brand. Once again, if you're one of 3 people, that means that you already have an existing store and you're watching this to try and improve something. Maybe you're not getting enough sales or whatever it might be, right? Fear is another thing that kind of stops us from making progress, right? So I want to show you what it's like to actually fractionally work with us at Cadversity as a product development and commercial strategy firm, okay? And there's so much that goes into a private label brand, so I'm not going to dive into too much detail here, but I'm going to go into the phases. This is especially helpful for people who are new, so you get an understanding of what it's going to look like to bootstrap this and what it's like to partner with us and what we would actually discuss if you were to book a call below, right? If you've got an existing brand, I want you to think deep into maybe you're missing something from each of these stages. I guarantee you are, just because I've seen and heard enough. And perhaps there's something you need to implement that you haven't before, or there's a system in here that you think is broken that has been hurting you for the last few months. Wherever you guys are in this video, this is going to benefit you. So there's a few core phases to a CPG brand or private label products. The first is product design. Typically, if you were to bootstrap this correctly, it would take about 2 months, 1 to 2 months, okay, to actually design your products, design your packaging, formulate your products if it's consumable like food and bev or supplements, whatever it is, right? The second phase is manufacturing. You have to align your partners, your manufacturer, your vendors, your packagers, your freight fulfillers. You have to get the thing made. You have to sample it, make sure it's functional, tastes good, smells good, whatever is relevant to the product. You got to manufacture, and that often takes up to 3 months, right? Then you have pre-commercial considerations. You have to structure the entity, structure the business. If you haven't already, which you should have, get funding, acquire capital expense. So making sure that you've got your equipment set up, that your labor's in-house, stuff like this. And you can do this completely fractionally. Pre-commercial is where things get scary because now you have all of this sunken cost and you need to sell. So now you're strategizing, basically go big or go home, right? Then the sales launch takes another month after that 2-month pre-commercial period where You're just launching organic and paid in order to sell. Okay, and if you have a strong personal brand and you leverage that early in the process, which is what we help with at Cadversity, okay, then you're able to pre-sell and liquidate your inventory and immediately break even, and then take all the rest as profit and reinvest into higher rounds of production. Okay, and then lastly, there's post-commercial, which is basically like, what do you do to scale? Okay, like we've made our 100 grand, we've made our 500 grand, we've made our $1 million. How do we actually scale and make like a Skims or a Gymshark out of this company? So first and foremost, the product design, okay? You need to sketch provable concepts for your design. So you need to have something on paper. It could be a napkin at a diner, it doesn't matter, okay? Then what you need to do is you need to research your intellectual property scope. So you need to look at existing patents for your particular product, existing trademarks, making sure you're not infringing upon that. And typically, to do that correctly, you're retaining an IP or intellectual property attorney, spending at least $2,500 on retainer. And then you want to secure a provisional patent application or PPA, otherwise known as patent provisional or patent pending period, for 1 year, which is usually a few $100 to $1,000, depending on how complex your build is with your attorney, or if you do it yourself after discovery. So now what you're doing is you're securing your intellectual property and you're sketching concepts to make sure that this business can go forward. Then you might be creating design requirements, which when I say you might be, you should be. Create design requirements. They have to be functional, real engineering requirements to a physical product. Usually you might spend $500 if you're doing this with a freelancer, but the quality there is not guaranteed. Once you have clearly defined design requirements in place, you need to create a 3D CAD or computer-aided design or render of the product. This can usually run you up to $4 grand plus, okay, because this is a professional engineering deliverable. Okay, this allows you to see what your apparel, what your medical device, what your toy, what your nutritional supplement, food, bev, whatever is going to look like actually physically in space. Okay, it's very important to do this because that's going to drive your manufacturing efforts. From that 3D CAD design, you're going to be able to create corporate renders and video animations and those two-dimensional manufacturing prints that you can circulate to investors, manufacturers, and external partners. This is the pipeline every single time. Nick, how do I get started developing my own product? This is the way, okay? When you have that 3D computer-aided design, you're going to create design decks to push to investors, and you're going to have to conduct months and months and months, if you're bootstrapping, of investor outreach. Maybe you don't have a contact network, right? Maybe your contact network is limited and it requires a lot of pushback, right? So you're going to be spending at least another $1,000 to develop really good design decks over iterative periods of time. You're going to spend another $1,500 on renders, $1,500 on animations, and this thing requires real capital and real time, okay? You got to value your time heavily, and there's a lot of money that goes into starting this if you're bootstrapping. Once you've got this design portfolio done, now you know what you're making, right? Then what you're going to do is you're going to source manufacturing. You're going to have to develop a prototype engineering design, which is a step up from your computer-aided design or your digital renders, okay? That could be another few grand. Then you're going to quote with manufacturers. You have to know how to quote with manufacturers, which manufacturers to quote with. It often becomes time-intensive. You're spending months quoting because you have to come under budget. You're going to be met with these things called production minimums. Like, for example, you want to make shirts, but like you need a minimum of 500 to sign a contract with the manufacturer. Now you're going to be out of pocket at least 10 grand and you can't afford that. So you have to be able to understand how to negotiate and leverage arbitrage quotes with manufacturers. If you don't understand what I'm saying, that's the point of this video. I encourage you to book a call below because I'm really explaining principles that are going to take you to success guaranteed that nobody talks about. And that's why you're going to get there, because this stuff is really advanced and involved. And perhaps if you're an existing brand and watching this trying to figure out where you're going wrong, maybe you already have some insight here. Maybe your minimums are too high. So you got to quote with manufacturers and negotiate. Once you're in manufacturing, now you got to spend the big boy bucks. It's all fun and games to design and like get things going and formulate things. Now you have to launch your production minimum. There might be tooling involved if you have a non-consumable product. Okay, so now you're spending upwards of 10K. Let's keep it 100%, right? But your goal should be to reduce as much outside cost from manufacturing as possible, because you need to be driving production. Like, you need inventory to sell, right? So there's also assembly and inspection you gotta consider there. But when you go pre-commercial, the assumption is you've got your inventory. Now you need to set up distribution. You need to set up freight. How am I going to push through FedEx, USPS, UPS at cost? Do I have production funding to actually order higher minimums in the future so I can like parallel production with sales? Because that's huge, right? You got to secure your domain, secure your website, develop a CRM or client resource management tracker software. You got to create internal contacts, external contacts, market to people with email and SMS campaigns. You might be spending a few grand a month to retain a marketing company that does that for you, that's actually trustworthy in the CPG space. Okay. And now you got to run meta ads or Facebook ads, right? That could be another few grand a month. You got to run Google ads, another few grand a month. Okay, you got to do the thing that businesses do, which is advertise. This is part of your sales launch now. And so now you're tracking client information. You're launching promotions, so discounts, incentives, BOGOs, like buy one, get one off, right? Or get one free, excuse me. And then now you have to create an organic content campaign. Now you got to post once a day on Instagram. You got to hire influencers. You got to post once a day on LinkedIn, corporate posts. You got to, it's just too much for you to do. It's just too much for you watching this to do. It just is. Do not get into this business on your own. You have to have multiple partners, or you have to have a fractional product development firm like us that does it all for you and holds your hand. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. You're going to fail. Okay, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Why? Because their owners fail, because they burn out. This is a very difficult business to get into, but it's so rewarding. And it's so much fun. Like what I'm going through with you guys, there's a lot behind it, and you're going to learn everything about business doing this business, right? So post-commercial strategy. You want to develop an affiliate program and sign UGC or user-generated content influencers. You might be paying a few grand a month, which is where I'm going to pay you to post TikToks to your hundreds of thousands of followers to promote my product and put a link in your bio, right? Now you're driving organic traffic. You want to retarget your audiences, so you have to set up campaign retargeting properly. You want to grow your inventory, then secure more capital equipment funding, eventually expand your distributors, expand the retail stores that you're partnering with. Like if you want to sell pet goods, you should be in Petco a few years in, right? Like that's the goal. And that's what we provide you with, is those contacts to do that earlier and faster. In-house manufacturing, you need to scale. So how do we create a business plan, an executive summary, and a resource map for building an actual commercial warehouse? And another thing too is hiring and talent. Now you're expanding the team and you're hiring more W-2 employees as opposed to 1099 contractors. You're becoming a business, right? A lot of you at this point now in this video, take a deep breath. You might be overwhelmed. Once again, you're one of a few types of people. You're just browsing like, Nick, how can I work with you? I'll do all this for you so that you'll become a 6-7 figure brand owner with your own physical products and like learn to love and enjoy the process so you don't have to worry. And if you have an existing brand and you're watching this, another type of person that this is meant for, okay? I guarantee you I pointed something out today that you have not considered or that could be optimized, okay? Reach out to me and book a call below for that specific subject or topic, okay? That's gonna allow us to actually make change, okay? And actually allow you to move the needle. I promise you I've seen everything. We have standard operating procedures for every part of this business. Now, just to get into, really the numbers here. When you add this up from this flowchart, you'll see that you would spend 8 months bootstrapping end to end and at least 33.4K plus 9K a month in like allocatable spend. You'd be spending $1 million in the first year if you did things the correct way. Like it's expensive if you just like listen to the noise and go for it. Or you could spend 4 to 6 months bootstrapping, so 75% of the time. And our cost at Cadversity starts at $15,000 landed total for like this whole flow chart that I showed you. So if you just want to phase this in and get started with designing your product, it's only a few grand with us. Like the whole thing, end to end, in red. And then everything in blue with us is another few $1,000, everything landed in place. Why? Because we've streamlined everything. So if you want to start your own product brand and you see how lucrative these profit margins are, and you're like, dude, this would be so fulfilling and I learned so much from it, and like this could be my 8-figure retirement scheme, which it is for a lot of our clients, okay? The best thing you can do is consolidate your systems and strategies with us at Cadversity. We've spent almost half a decade consolidating everything and just making a great product development experience for our clients. Everything you see behind me is R&D that we have in-house. Okay, just book a call below and let's chat. All that lies between you right now and you being a 7-figure product brand owner, okay, is a lack of knowledge and or funding and or there's fear that exists somewhere in your mind. Hopefully I helped alleviate that by showing you that like I know what I'm talking about and there's a lot here that you can learn from, and there's so much potential on the profit side. Go ahead and book a call down below, and I hope to see you inside. If you've clicked on and you haven't booked a call, maybe you'll come and hit me up asking me like, hey, is this worth it for me? I'd love to have a conversation. Go ahead and book a call down below and I'll see you inside.